Welcome everyone to the Virtual Excel Academy.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to the Virtual Excel Academy. We are excited today to present Writing with a Slate and Stylus with Leanne Grillot, our very own. We also have with us Charlotte Cushman from Texas School for the Blind, Perkins School for the Blind, and the Paths to Literacy Manager. Hello, Charlotte.
Hello, everyone.
And I'm Cheryl Kamahanan. I am a professor at Cal State University, Los Angeles. We also have Belinda with us. She is our closed captioner, and we are so appreciative, Belinda, that you are with us. Hello.
Hi, sorry, had to unmute. Hello.
Glad you could say hello today. So, Leanne, I'll let you take it away. And as she's setting herself up, if you could just let us know in the chat room, who are you? Where are you from? And anything you'd like to share about the beautiful day it is today. Thank you so much, Leanne. Take it away.
Well, sure. Welcome, everyone. The Slate and Stylus are unique pieces of equipment used by people who have visual impairments and utilize Braille as a way of getting information, storing information, learning information. But the Slate and Stylus is one of those older tools. And I was curious, how many people out there actually have one maybe tucked in a closet that they had to pull out, or remember using one at one time? And right now I'm going to ask everybody. That means even my teachers who are hiding out in the background there, who actually has used a Slate and Stylus at one point in time. Again, it could have been when you were little or early on in your career. A Slate and Stylus is a unique tool. So I'm just going to start there. I'm curious. Now, I'm seeing lots of people, me. I've taught it. A few people I've never used it. Some people I have one, I use it occasionally. Someone has to be tested on the Slate and Stylus every year. Other people a long time ago, and that's okay. What I wanted to talk to you about with the Slate and Stylus is how to use one. Now, pause for a minute in the chat. I just want to know for a minute from my students out there. That means you K-12 folk out there. I want to know if you have used a Slate and Stylus. All you have to do is put a Y in the chat. If you have used a Slate and Stylus, put a Y in the chat. I want to know if you students have used a Slate and Stylus. Now, some of you might not have, and some of you might have enough sight that a Slate and Stylus wasn't something you are going to use, but you might be interested in it. I actually can see, but I love Braille, and I love the Slate and Stylus. So I'm going to show you a picture. Hold on a minute. And I just want feedback from either Cheryl or Charlotte, making sure that that picture is visible for you guys.
Yep, perfect.
Okay. So I am showing you two of my slates that I have. I have one silver slate that's long, about the length of a 9x11 sheet of paper, the short side of one. And then I have a pocket slate, which is black. And then I have a blue stylus. My blue stylus is a saddleback stylus, and there are many different styli out there. There's many different slates out there. These are just the two that I have. So some of you might have never seen one before, and that's okay. Now, if you are a light dependent person, meaning you need to use your eyes to gain information, I did give some handouts for those people who probably won't have quick access to a slate and actually wanted to be able to join in the fun. I did give those sight-dependent folk something to look at. I have a pre-printed sheet of empty Braille cells called the virtual slate. And if you use a black marker, I would definitely suggest you put something underneath it, and if you press really hard, the ink will show through to the other side, and that is really important for a slate and stylus, and we will talk about that. But I did give those light dependent folks something they could do to join in the fun if they wanted to use the slate and stylus. So this is a really important tool. Many adults do use the slate and stylus because it allows people who don't have that easy access to jot down a quick information. And a long time ago, this really was one of the only ways a person who used Braille could take notes for really any length of time. I'm curious, those of you who have heard of a slate and stylus and used a slate and stylus, what did you use your slate and stylus for? What did you use it for? What would you have written on it? Go ahead and type that in the chat. What would you have written on it? So one person made notes when they're on the phone numbers. Someone said their name, a list. If you are an adult who's used a slate and stylus, what have you written on a slate and stylus? Another person said a grocery list. Quick notes. Inserting Dymo tape for labeling. Oh, Dymo tape, that stuff that you can peel apart after you Braille it and you stick it on stuff. Notes and labels. One person said they like the index card slate or the 4-line slate. See, there's other types of slates out there. Class notes. So think about how you might use this information and how you might incorporate using the slate for yourself. This is not typically something that somebody would pull out to take an hour's worth of class notes, and you're going to find out why in a minute. But simple, short, jotting down notes sounds like a lot of fun. So hopefully by the end of this time, you will have an idea of how to write your first and last name on a slate, as well as how to put paper in it. And then you'll hopefully be able to create some of the letters on it. Okay, so I'm going to actually put the interpoint slate away. I'm going to put this one away. Not that I'm not going to talk about it again later, but right now we're just going to put it away so you have just a little bit in front of you. And I'm going to pull this silver slate down. Now the silver slate that I have in front of us is metal. It has a hinge that I have placed the hinge on the left-hand side. Okay, and if I hold the hinge of the left-hand side and I move my hand across it to the right-hand side, I can feel a lever that will lift up the top part of the slate. If you feel that top part of the slate with your thumb or your finger, you're going to feel holes across it. Now, depending on the slate that you have, you're going to have a different number of holes, but mine is quite long. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, all the way across. And then I've got 4 rows of 27. So I've got a decent amount to be able to write at one time. Okay? Now those holes that you feel, those are holding those Braille cells. Okay? And you can use your finger as your guide to remind you where you are. Okay? Now the stylus. The stylus I have is blue. It has a plastic, what I would call the top part, and it's a saddleback, which means it's got this curved part at the very top where my finger can rest. At the other end is a sharp point. So that is a sharp point at the other end. So this is a tool that you would have to be somewhat careful with. Does anyone know what stylus was used by Louis Braille when he was playing around with leather in his father's shop, and what ended up being how he was starting to think about Braille? Does anyone know what that was? He did push this into his eye on accident. It's how he became Braille, but it's also a tool that he used to make Braille. It was an awl, A-W-L, it was an awl. And so if you think about it, the very tool that actually caused a problem for him also gave him access to words, which is a pretty cool idea, that he was able to turn something that probably was pretty negative to him into something that was positive. So think about your stylus almost like those light dependent folk think about a pencil. That's what we're going to create letters with this, okay? Okay, so our finger, our stylus goes in our dominant hand. My dominant hand is my right hand, so it's going in my dominant hand, okay? Doesn't have to. It goes in the hand that works best for you. Mine will go in my dominant hand. With the saddleback, I use my index finger to rest in that saddle or bend so that I can push down with that movement and push the point in, okay? So you found that. The nice thing about the saddleback is it also doesn't roll away. It's very nice to not have something roll away. And I'll tell you, those light dependent folk, our pencils roll away all the time. This one does not roll away. Okay, so what I want you to do now is I want you to, if you have your Slate and Stylus with you, we're going to put a piece of paper into the slate. Okay, so I am going to open up this hinge all the way up. And at the back, if you feel it, you've got indents all the way across. It actually matched up with the holes that you had. Okay? Those are the holes. But we need to put a piece of paper in here because nothing would be printed if we poked in it. So we're going to need to take a piece of paper and put it in. Now I have a white piece of cardstock. I had limited access to my Braille paper of smaller size. The Braille paper I had was an 11 by 11.5 sheet of Braille paper. And those large sheets of Braille paper don't fit inside this slate very well. It ends up with a lot of paper off to the side. So I have found it most helpful to use the smaller Braille paper. There's no rule though. You actually can Braille even on regular paper, though it doesn't hold up very well. So I'm going to take my piece of paper and I'm going to pull it all the way up until I feel the paper edge lining up with the top edge of the slate. And on the left-hand side, I've pushed it all the way over to hit the hinge. Okay? And once I feel with my fingers that it's lined up along the top edge, and I feel with my left hand that it's lined up along the hinge, I'm ready to fold the door over of my slate. That piece that I had picked up and opened up, I'm now going to fold back over onto my piece of paper. And what I'm going to do is push. I don't know if that sound came through or not, but what it did is it kind of went poke, poke. There are 4 little posts that help anchor that piece of paper in to the slate. So when I open this door back up, if I'm pretty careful, this piece of paper has 4 little posts that have pushed through to hold this piece of paper in. It's not perfect. You move it around really far with the door open, it will move, but it does help hold that piece of paper in place. So now I have a piece of paper in my Brailler. If you have a slate with you today and you've put a piece of paper in your Brailler, can you put a Y in the chat? I'm curious, is anyone able to even follow along with me? Did you find your slate before this lesson? We're going to cheer you on. I see Linda and Barbara and Michelle. I will cheer you on joining me on this lesson. Oh, I see more. Sharon and Saffron, Aiden, Estella, Jen. Great. You're joining me on this, Travis, with our Slate and Stylus. Okay, so I'm going to say, if you had your piece of paper in your slate and you can open it up and it still doesn't move, it kind of holds on a little bit and push it back down, you've done good. You got it in the right spot, ready to go. Now, we are ready to start writing, but we need to figure out how to start writing. Okay? I want you to think about the Braille cell in a little bit different way. What I want you to think about in the Braille cell is that the Braille cell has two sides. The first side and the second side. The first side you come to in a Braille cell, when you move your fingers reading from left to right, that's the first side. On a slate, the first side, we work from right to left, okay? But there's still a first side. That first side on a slate is the first one you come to when you start on the right-hand cell, okay? I can feel an opening on the top, ready for something to go in. Now, just for you light dependent folk, I'm going to flip my abacus over and show them that this side does not have holes, it has bumps, and I have nothing to be able to push a stylus through. Okay, so that's not the right side. I'm going to flip it back over. So I am ready to write. Okay, so I have my stylus. I am going to think about the first side of the Braille cell. And I want you to take your stylus and stick it in the very top right-hand cell opening that's available to you. Okay? I don't want you to push down. I just want you to set it inside that opening. Now, if you pushed it too hard on accident, it's okay. We'll work on it. But all I want you to do is feel that corner on the upper right-hand side of the upper right-hand cell. That's that first side. If you kind of pull the stylus down that side, you'll feel ridges. The upper corner, that's the top first side. If you feel one bump moving down, that's the middle first side. And if you slide it all the way down, that's the bottom right side. Again, my stylus is inside the top cell of the slate, and I'm just rolling it along inside that little square and feeling those edges. Okay? If you can feel those edges, and you can pause for a second and type a Y in the chat. Did you feel those little ridges as you moved your stylus up and down? Okay, I have a few people who can feel those ridges. Okay, now let's think back. Think about Braille. That's our first side. Our first side we would have often referred to as dots, 1, 2, and 3. I'm purposely not going to use the numbers. I want you to think about the top, middle, and bottom, okay, of the first side. But there are two sides to Braille. We've got the first side and we've got the second side. So if you slide your stylus over inside that square, inside that little rectangle, over to the left, into the top left hand of that little tiny cell, you're now on the second side of the Braille cell. You can move your stylus down along the edge on that side and you will again feel little ridges. So you've got the top of the second side, slide down the middle of the second side, and slide to the bottom. You've got the bottom of the second slide. Okay. I've got a question. Let's try the students first on this question. Students, we've had a couple lessons on Braille, or if you're a Braille user, do you remember something that would be using the very first dot in Braille? Do you know what letter would be made by the very first dot in Braille? Justin has A, Maya has A, Sarah Fran has A, Tawana has A. Okay, A, we've got A. A is made by the top first dot, that top dot on the first side. So what I want you to do is I'm going to take your stylus, find the first cell, put your stylus point on the top first side, which is that right-hand corner there, and I want you to push down with your stylus. Okay, push down. I have hard paper, so I can actually hear a pop when I do it. If you have thinner paper, you might not quite hear the pop. Depends on the type of paper you have. You've now made an A. Now, some people, depending on their stylus, might be holding it tighter and using your wrist. Your wrist is actually a good way to make Braille, but you might not be able to do that. So if you need to use your finger, it's okay. My stylus is built for me to use my finger. What I want you to do now is I want you to move to the next cell. In this Braille, to move to the next cell, you've got to move left. We move from right to left with the stylus. So I'm going to pick my stylus up. I'm going to move it until the next cell. And you can use your other finger to guide yourself to make sure you're in that cell. We're going to make a row of A's. So in this top cell, top first dot is going to be pushed down. I'm going to make another A. First side top, I made an A. I'm going to go to the next cell. First side top, A. Move to the next cell. First side top, A. Move to the next cell. First side top, A. And what I want you to do is I want you to go all the way across with your slate, whatever size your slate is, and make a whole row of A's. Now, if you are a light dependent person, you are welcome to use your marker on your paper virtual slate and fill in that top first dot. Okay, so it's the first side, top dot, first side, top dot, first side, top dot. And I'm all done. I've done my whole top row of A. So say it over and over to yourself that you're using the first side and the top, and what letter did you make? A. Trying to help yourself remember that you're doing it a little bit different than if you were doing it with a Braille writer. Okay? Now, how do we know what we wrote? Remember, when I flipped it over, I'm holding it tightly and I'm flipping it over, I feel metal full Braille cells. That's not working, is it? I can't feel anything. I'm going to put it back over. Does anyone know how I might actually feel what I wrote in here? I want to be able to check what I wrote. What I can do is I can pick up the paper, flip it over, hold this down, and I can lift up this back to see what I wrote, or to feel what I wrote. I can feel along, and I've done a whole row of A's. can push it back down, and I'm ready to go again. If you do it that way, you don't need to remove the paper. It's just one way you can do it. Okay, now you've made a row of A's. There is another letter that can be made on that first side, and only the first side. That letter is B. Using the words and language I was talking about with first side and second side and top, middle, and bottom, we know it's the first side, but which dots will we use to make the B? Will we use the top? Will we use the middle? Will we use the bottom? Which dots are we going to use? Tawana says the middle. We are going to use the middle. Is there another dot we're going to use to make a B? Abby's thinking the top in the middle. Saffron say top and middle. Okay, top and middle, you are correct. The top and middle will make a B. So on my top row on my slate, I have an A. In this next slate row, I'm going to make a B. I'm on the right-hand side of my slate, ready to go. I put my stylus in the second row of cells. I move my stylus to the top of that first side, ready to go. I'm going to push down that top dot. I'm going to pick up my stylus slightly, feel the ridge and go down on that first side. So I'm in the middle one and push. So I've done the top and the middle of the first side. And I've made a B. Now I'm going to move my stylus to the next cell, which means moving to the left. I'm on the first side of the cell and I'm going to push the top, slide my stylus down and push the middle. Now I'm going to move to the next cell and I'm going to do the same. Top, middle, first side, top.
Hello, everyone. It looks like we are having some technical difficulties. I think it'll just take a moment here as we bring Leanne back on, and we will get started as soon as we can.
I think we can address one of the questions in the chat that Amy brought up, which is there a benefit to using the terms top, middle, bottom of the first side, then second side, as opposed to numbering? And we could let Leanne, welcome back. We're glad to see you. You're muted.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
We have a bad storm here, so I am sorry about that.
And I'm sorry to interrupt, but can you assign me because it bumped me out for some reason?
I definitely can. Well, it did because I am the host and I lost all power.
Okay.
So that does happen. There you go. Are you back in, Belinda?
Yes, it'll take me just a second, but go ahead. Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
And we were just
Sorry about
answering
that.
some questions in the chat window. Charlotte, do you want to finish?
Yeah, it's a teacher question, so I don't know if you want it at the beginning or you want it right now or at the end, but it's about using the terms top, middle, bottom, first side, second side, as opposed to numbering. Do you want to talk about that now or later?
Well, I can do something really fast, and we can talk about it later as well. This is experience more than anything else. No one is going to say you're wrong in doing numbers, and if your student is able to reverse their numbers and think about the rows in a different way, go for it. But using that first side and second side, top, middle, and bottom is a way to make the slate hopefully feel a little less challenging. Some people seem to think that slate is going to be more challenging or more confusing. So that's why I'm doing it this way. But everyone kind of has their own way. Okay, so hopefully you made all your A's, you made all your B's. There that you can make with that first side and only that first side. Can you guess what letter I might be talking about? What's another letter I might be talking about? I'm actually talking about the letter L. The letter L uses the top, the middle, and the bottom of the first side. So I'm going to the third row on my slate. I'm starting on the right-hand side because we go from right to left with the Slate and Stylus. I want the top, the middle, and the bottom. I'm going to move to the next one and do the top, the middle, and the bottom. I'm on the first side, top, middle, bottom. I made an L. Top, middle, bottom, made an L. Go all the way across your slate, making an L. All the way across.
Yes, love.
All the way across. Okay.
There was a ton of
That one should
thinking.
be taking. I am hearing Cheryl, I think. Can you guys still hear me? I have not disappeared, correct?
We can hear you. I'll mute Cheryl.
Okay, I just wanted to, whoa, look at me. Hitting my camera off too. Okay, just wanted to make sure. Okay, so I am going to make my row of L's all the way across. How are you guys doing with your L's? How's your hand feeling? This is a lot of exercise for your wrist, for your fingers. This is work. So top, middle, bottom on the first side. First side, top, middle, bottom. All of those L's all the way across your slate. Now, we've practiced an awful lot on the first side of our slate, but I think we need to do something that's going to exercise our second side of the slate. So I want you to think about the letter X. The letter X. How might we make it? It has 2 dots on the top and it has 2 dots on the bottom. Okay, you always want to make the first side dots first. The first side dots first. So I am in the 4th row of my slate, getting near the end of what I have available on my slate, and I'm going to make an X. You are going to put your stylus in the very first cell on the right-hand side, ready to go. You're going to push the top dot of the first side down. Take your stylus and go all the way down that first side to the bottom dot and push that one in. You do the first side first. So I push the top dot and the bottom dot. Go back up, move over to the second side at the top and push that one in, and then slide down to the bottom of the second side and push that one in. Okay, so move to the next cell. Let's try it again. Remember, right side and then left side. Right side first, top dot, slide down, bottom dot. Second side top, second side bottom. Next cell on the first side top, first side bottom, second side top, second side bottom, making that X. First side top, first side bottom, second side top, second side bottom. Keep moving across your slate, making an X. If you need to, say first side and second side and top and bottom. Make sure you do your first side first and then your second side. And as you go, you should get faster and faster. Your stylus is doing a lot of work pushing those dots in, but you might also be feeling your fingers getting a little tired. If you don't use your Slate and Stylus often, you are exercising muscles in your hand and your wrist, which you don't use very often. And it does take some muscle to push those dots into the paper. So you've got to think of that, okay? All the way across your paper, okay? Now, exercise your hands. Drop that stylus down on your desk and move your fingers. Stop holding your stylus. Stretch your hands out. Give them a little shake. How are your hands feeling? How are your hands feeling? I can try popping over to my other internet, though I'm afraid to. Are you guys hearing me okay?
Your audio is a little stuttery, but I think we're okay. So keep going.
Okay. That's one of the challenges, I guess. Okay, so now we have used all your cells. If you had a 4-line slate, they're all used up. I'm done. I have a bunch of Braille inside my piece of paper. Have my A's, my B's, my L's, and my X's. So I can feel those with my finger, see how I did. Did you reverse any? How'd you do? Okay, that's something to think about. Now, I'm done with this set. I don't have any more room on my slate. So the way I'm going to move mine up is there were those little dots. I'm going to open it back up to the side that I'm used to writing in. There are little pins and you can kind of feel them, they poke up and you had made little holes. So you can, if you're talented, line up your slates, 2 little holes with the pins. Those bottom holes will slide up to the top holes and you're ready to go again. So that's one way that you can line up a slate. There were those little pins sticking out, you could feel them. And you can use the bottom holes and slide them up to the top pins so that you're ready to go again. And then close back down the slate and you're going to hear a pop, pop again usually as it locks those 2 bottom dots in and you're ready to go again. Okay? So we have done A, B, L, X. Let's think about another thing that you can do with a slate and stylus. You can actually do contractions with a slate and stylus. You could do the contraction sign CH. So let's think about the contraction sign CH. Using the language of a slate, do you know which side and which dots you would use? Which dots on the first side would you use? Which dots on the first side would you use for a CH? I know which dots. Can you use it with the language of top, middle, and bottom? So just saying the top right, so the top of the first side and the bottom of the second side. top of the first side and the bottom of the second side. So I'm going to put my stylus in the top row of my slate on the right hand side, ready to go, and my stylus is at the top first side. You do the first side first. I'm going to push in the first side top. I'm going to move my stylus over to the second side and go all the way down to the bottom and push the bottom one in. Move to the next cell. The CH is the top of the first side and the bottom of the second side. So I did my top dot on my first side, move over to the second side and go to the bottom. Go to the next cell, go to the top of the first side and the bottom of the second side. Next cell, top of the first side, move over to the second side, go to the bottom. Go all the way across, top of the first side, bottom of the second side. Top of the first side, bottom of the second side. Top of the first slide, bottom of the second slide. You will find that pushing straight down is easier. If you push at an angle, it really doesn't make the dots. Top of the first side, bottom of the second side. Now, there was a question in the chat. Oh, wait a minute, is that the ST? This is one of the reasons why I really try to talk about where you're placing your stylus to make the letters. Because an ST would actually be different dots for different sides. Does anyone want to take a guess as what dots would be in the first side of an ST? What dot in an ST is on the first side? An ST would be at the bottom of the first side. And what would it be on the second side? It's the bottom of the first side and the top of the second side. So it's the bottom of the first side and the top of the second side. So if you want, you can move down to your next cell and do a line of STs. Bottom of the first side, top of the second side. So the first side that you come to is the first side you come to when you're reading, but when you're going from right to left and writing, that's your first side. So you have to remember that you're going a different direction. That's one reason why I talk about sides instead of dots. Again, if the dots and cell numbers work for you, that's okay, but I found this works well. So how would you make the Braille letter C? What about the Braille letter C? On a slate, on the first side, what dot would you need? The top, the middle, or the bottom for a C? That's right, the top. You need the top on the first side. Do you need the top, middle, or bottom for the second side to make a C? And Justin said top for both of them. Yes, the top. So C is the top of both dots. Okay, so you would be pushing in the top of the first side, sliding your stylus over and doing the top of the second side. Now, what about the capital sign? We are used to capitalizing when we write our name. So we do need to talk about the capital sign. Now, for those light dependent folk who are not used to capitalizing words the way we do in Braille, I gave them a cheat sheet for their capital dot because they don't usually remember to do one. What dot do we need to make a capital? Do we need a dot on the top, middle, or bottom of the first side, or the top, middle, or bottom of the second side? So now it's saying the last space. Which one is that? Which one is the last space to you? It is the bottom of the second side, right, Justin? Bottom of the second side. So if I wanted to write my name, in the very first cell, I have to do my capital, okay? It's nothing on the first side, so I automatically move my stylus to the second side and go all the way down to the bottom and push it in. Now I have to move to the next cell and I need to think about it. I need to make the letter L. So let's think about it. The letter L, we did that one. That was all 3 dots on the first, the top, the middle, and the bottom. I'm moving to the next cell over and I need an E. What cells, what bumps do I need to make an E? What one on the first side do I need? The top, the middle, or the bottom? Which one do I come to first when I'm reading? It's a top. So on that first side, I push the top one down. And I know there's a dot on the second side. Which dot on the second side? It's the middle. So I went to the second side and down to the middle, and I've done my E. I'm moving to the next cell, and I need to do an A. Where's the A? It's the top on the first side. We did that one already too. Moving to the next cell. My next letter is an N. What dots on the first side make an N? Which ones on the first side make an N? Is it the top, the middle, the bottom? For an N. It's the top of the first side and the bottom of the first side. Slide over to the second side. I want to make an N. What dots are on the second side? It's the top and the middle. Great job, Justin. I have 2 N's, so I'm going to move over one more cell and do another N. Top of the first side, bottom of the first side. Top of the second side, middle of the second side. And now I go to the last one and I have an E. How do we do the E again? The first side is the top and the second side is the middle. If you're feeling along with your fingers and you know you're ready to do another word and you need a space, the best course of action is to kind of slide your stylus gently through the next cell so that you're just sliding it into the following cell. In other words, after I finished my E, I still moved my stylus to the next cell. I just did not push anything down. I picked it up and moved it to the next cell, so I'm ready to go. So that's one way to be able to slide and then move it over. Okay, you ready to help me do my last name? In that cell, I need a capital dot. Help out those light dependent folk. What dot is my capital dot? It's on the second side and bottom. Okay, so I've got my capital. Slide my stylus over. I need a G. How am I going to do a G? A G is on the first side, top and middle. On the second side, top and middle. Slide over, I need an R. An R on the first side is top, middle, bottom. And on the second side, it's only the middle. I hop over to the next cell, I need an I. An I on the first side is the middle. An I on the second side is the top. Hop over one more cell, and I have an L. First side, top, middle, bottom. Hop over again to the next cell, I have another L. First side, top, middle, bottom. Hop over the next cell, I need an O. What do I need for the first side? Top, middle, or bottom for an O? What do I need for the first side of an O? For the first side of an O, you need the top dot and the bottom dot. On the second side of an O, you need the middle. There's my O. I hop one more over. I need a T. How do I make the first side of a T? What is the first side of a T? Think about Braille when you're reading it. What are the first dots you come to? Is it a top dot, a middle dot, or a bottom dot? For a T, it's the middle and the bottom. Great job, Abby. On the second side, what dots do you come to for a T? It's the top and the middle. There you go. And if you want to see your work, you can open the stylus up and you can see if you reversed any. But hopefully you were able to do some of the things you haven't practiced probably in a long time. I will ask you for your own homework, because I can't see the work you're doing, to practice using the slate to braille your first name and your last name. And if some of you are brave enough, have a friend snap a photo of it and send it to me, or you can even mail me yours if you want to. I've found doing postcards with a slate and stylus is kind of a lot of fun. That's one way you can practice and still have a lot of fun. So, if you are new to the slate and stylus, you have learned that if you have a Braille alphabet handy and you kind of think about it, you can actually think about top, middle, and bottom, and first side and second side a little bit differently. It's a way to think about doing a slate and stylus and Braille. But what's nice is you have another way to be able to practice. The slate fits in your pocket way easier than a Braille writer fits in your pocket. And I would suggest practicing it every once in a while. Maybe leave it by your phone. Stop sharing my screen and see if there's any questions that I can answer. While I'm waiting to see if there's any questions, I would like to give kudos and thanks to a very special friend and professor. Her name is Dr. Sandy Lewis. She is a good friend of mine, and this was part of her lesson plan to show students in the college how to use a slate and stylus, because our college students who become teachers of the visually impaired have to learn the slate and stylus too. So, thank you, Sandy, for a wonderful lesson plan. Are there any questions in there? Students, do you have any questions? Exercise, stretch your hands out, get your fingers going a little bit. That's a lot of pushing with your fingers.
There is one question, which is how do we learn contractions?
Contractions, I would say that contractions for learning Braille, I would suggest you really think about learning Braille if you don't know what contractions are. That's a whole different lesson because Braille has lots of them, similar to the print alphabet that has a few like can't or couldn't. Braille has a lot of shortcuts because Braille is very bulky. It's very big. So if you really want to learn more about Braille, I would suggest looking up some Braille lessons. And there's lots of different ones out there. A book called Just Enough to Know Better really does give you a good beginning. But there are many, many, many contractions in Braille. One of the neat things is almost every letter stands for a word in Braille if you are not knowledgeable of Braille. So Braille's got lots of shortcuts. In some ways you wrote like, it, and oh shoot. Okay, all my favorite Braille people, CH. Child? Child, I was right, okay. So you've written some. You didn't know you were writing contractions, but you were doing some. I think there was one other correction is who created Braille? Louis Braille created Braille. That was kind of something he gave to his own group of people. They wanted a way to write, and he created Braille, and it has really taken off. Used by lots and lots of people. Any other questions in there? And this time, if there's teachers, I'll take questions from teachers. I'm so glad you joined me today. I'm seeing people got child. I think someone else was talking about the short form word but. There's lots of different short form verbs. I do have one question. Helena, what is your question? You've raised your hand.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
I learned I learned the Braille Stylus, and can you do Nemeth code on Braille Stylus
On a slate, you definitely can. Anything that you could actually produce with Braille dots, you can make. Now, the one thing that's a little harder is if you're using a Braille cell that needs 8. I don't know if they make a cell that gives an 8 dot cell, but if you could definitely do Nemeth and UEB technical without any problem.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it's kind of neat. You can also do it on stickers or simple pieces of paper. You can actually use Post-it notes in it if you want to.
One more question. Which one will be better to use? Braille Writer or Braille Stylus? Which one will be better?
A Braille what or a Braille stylus?
A Braille Writer. Which one will be better?
Depends on what you can roll in. The interesting thing about a Braille Writer is it doesn't like little pieces of paper. And a slate, you can put little pieces of paper in it.
Cool.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Aisha? What can I answer for you?
Okay. So can you write 4 sentences with a slate and stylus?
You definitely can write full sentences with a slate and stylus. A great way to practice is actually sending somebody a postcard.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it takes some time. You got to practice with your muscles. That it is a little harder. Okay, why did people make Braille? Well, they tried making a raised print alphabet, but you can't fit a whole alphabet letter underneath one finger. You had to actually trace each letter with your finger. And if you thought about even trying to trace each letter with your finger before you read a word, you get really tired. Doesn't mean people didn't try. They tried really hard to do it that way, but Braille was faster and each letter fits under their finger, which makes it a little bit easier. But again, that's still reading letter by letter. And so that's why there's many contractions. So you fit multiple letters with one contraction under your finger. Okay, well, I am going to say thank you all for joining me so much. This was a lot of fun. I haven't played with my slate and stylus in a while, and it felt really good to do it again. Would you like to tell us what's next, Miss Cheryl?
I would be happy to. Thank you so much for that wonderful slate and stylus lesson. We have tomorrow, Thursday, Basic Coding Part 2 with Robin Lowell. She will be back and she will be showing us building on basic coding skills such as algorithms, debugging, and loops in an unplugged setting. So we hope that you will join us tomorrow for another wonderful session at Virtual Excel Academy. Thank you so much. Bye for now.
Bye, everyone.
Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you.